Hello, everyone. I'm trying to. There's this little captcha I had to figure out, so just bear with me. Um, damn it! I'm not a robot. Verify. This is killing me. All right, figure it out finally. Okay, so, damn it, left image border. Today is gonna be pretty informal. I had to deal with another sick Roland. Roland's he gets sicker, more sick than I ever do. Okay, so this one I was gonna do a more formal video on it, just kind of like an episode of the Awakening, but it would be one of the more advanced ones, and it's something that I just kind of want to go over now. So I'm just gonna talk about it now. You're not gonna really glean something extremely huge from it, but just something that you might find from the what I just kind of discovered. I mean, it's always been there. I just haven't really put too much thought into it, but I think I might put more thought into it and what it actually means, because we are in the digital information age. So let's go ahead and start. Hey, a lot of people joining the Periscope. Okay, so there's a difference between analog and digital. And what I would term analog is just things that occur and are recorded naturally. If you look at the root meaning of analog, it means analogous is a term used in biology to refer to body parts that have a similar function but differ in structure, such as wings of a bird and wings of an airplane. Analogous is from Latin analogous, from Greek analogos, meaning according to proper ratio or proportion. Now, when you look at things that come from the analog, you're going to find that circles have curves, right? They're round. You don't get a whole number from it. And so when you actually have something that's analog to digital, so basically, I wish I could analog. Maybe there's an image here. Sorry, I didn't fully prep. But you see, the analog is just a sine wave. If you get an oscilloscope, that's measuring analog waves. Oh, here's a bit better representation. So this is what we actually see. We see the curves, but you can't really put that into even numbers in the digital world. In the digital world, it's based on bits, and we hold those bits within bytes, which is 8. And we're gonna go more into that because it's gonna be a lot of esoteric knowledge. I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out if you're kind of a techie. If you don't really think about your computer and how it's the hardware behind it and what the software is. You're just it's not like anyone's specialty to really go behind the esoteric and the occult purpose behind digital technology. So we can't mimic what is in life. We can't recreate life as it's created on Earth. We can do it the way that it's supposed to be. But we can't control it the way or create it the way it was created. Maybe I'm not putting this in the correct terms, but hopefully you know what I mean. So analog is basically that, right? You get the curves, and when you think about it, when you don't have a whole number, what do? You round down or round up. It's about curves, circles, roundness. Now digital, you don't want that roundness, because you can't really it's very difficult, at least for us now, to interpret a we can't have 1.23 bits. We can't have 0.0765 bits. 1 bit is just a yes or a no, positive, negative, right? So you can actually make a a conversion, a digital representation of roundness, and it's all going to be based on squares, ones and zeros, and just a very. I'm just looking at the pixel, like you're watching this on a screen. What does that screen have? The screen is based off of pixels. Pixels are squares. They're not round. They're not circles. They're all squares. And so we can fit information in these squares, and we don't have to worry about all the spaces in between, because if pixels were circles, it would be a little bit harder. And I think we had that. We had analog television, they're based off of tubes, and things were I guess not as high definition because there's gaps in between that we didn't figure out. Anyways, maybe that will be a part of something that I'll talk about next time. So here you go. You've got the analog, again, roundness, curves, circles, digital, squares, even lines, even multiplication, squaring, like basically anything when you're talking about the digital realm. It's everything can be squared into a whole number. You don't get squares that are uneven, that aren't whole numbers. You don't. So when you square, everything is a whole number. Analog aren't based off of whole numbers. If you want to try to get a whole number, you round up or you round down. Pretty simple, right? Now, digital is interesting because I tried looking up the word digital as far as the origin of the word and maybe different word associations with it. The most I get is okay, 1st century BC. Digitus is basically finger or toes, right? We got 10 digits, 5 digits on each hand, 10 digits total with 2 hands, and then we got 5 digits on each foot, 10 digits on both feet. Which is curious because you would think that in the digital realm we would base everything off of 10 instead of 8. So that's something to think about. And of course, late 14th century, a digit is the numeral below 10. So today, digital computers, touchscreens. Anyways, it's hard to find. Find a lot of stuff behind the meaning, but basically the word digital circles back around to original Latin meaning. So there's that. Now, digital is just, of course, if you don't know, just the exoteric, which just means the everyday knowledge that people have, is just basically digital is signals or data expressed as a series of digits 0 and 1, typically represented by values of a physical quantity stored as voltage or magnetic polarization. And we store all of that within bytes. So based off of 8. We'll go ahead and we'll skip that. We already went through that. So the meaning behind the 8, and there's going to be a couple here that I'm going to go through. But of course, easily 8 is the symbol of infinity. Infinity, of course, is basically a sideways 8. And here in the GnosticWarrior.com, at the very end, they talk about, and guess what else? The whole internet and our computer systems are designed by using number 8, which is the base of the octal number system, and we mostly used with computers. An octal 1 digit represents 3 bits. In modern physics, a byte is a grouping of 8 bits, also called an octet. Even the number 8 is written in parentheses. It is the code for the musical note in the popular instant messenger, Windows Live Messenger. Now that part I did not even know. That's pretty interesting. Probably they're using the octave. Okay, so I'll go over the GnosticWarrior.com about the number 8, and SacredText.com with the number 8, and even the meaning of numbers in the Bible, the number 8. And there's even other more, where mysticalnumbers.com, number 8, and ancient origins when we start going into the Ogdode, and the Ogdode is also something specified by Pythagoras as the little holy number. And so we'll even go a little bit more into it with the sophiatopia.org and just a bunch of other places that we may go to. And just everything is based off of, I mean, the simplest square you get is number 8. And we'll get to that too. And then basically everything that you see, even on your screen, the number of pixels is based off of the number 8. Did you know that? No, maybe. We'll see. Okay. So again, this is informal. This is just something that you can look into. I don't have a lot of knowledge about the esoteric and numerological like parts of numbers and stuff like that. I've been looking into that. There's been a lot of people I've been watching and learning from to just gain more knowledge of it. So, meaning of the number 8 by Mo, Numerology in Gnostic Warrior. There are many meanings behind numbers that one can find when researching this subject. The secret underlying this article is the Greek alphabet when computing the gematria of the allegorical language of the New Testament. The number 8 corresponds to the New Testament according to Ambrose. This is something I am. You capitalize I am. Relearning as I create these articles. For example, I found the number 8 tied to various important stories, events, and in particular priesthood that had originated in the East. This article will mainly focus on what I feel are the most significant meanings to the Templars. One of the earliest references to Shakespeare's name links it with Pythagoras in 3 of his plays, each time in connection with the concept of the transmigration of souls. Pythagoras says this about numbers: all is number. The number 8, which the arithmeticians call the first actual square, has been named by the Pythagorean Philo. Lost the name of geometrical harmony because he thinks he recognizes in it all the harmonic relations which you will find then in mathematics, that the symbol of the infinity is represented by a 8 laid down. It was the Pythagoreans who held that there are in man 8 organs of knowledge: sense, fantasy, art, opinion, prudence, science, wisdom, and mind. Now, another thing that I will get into later, which that we'll talk about, is this digital technology. It's about squaring the circle, because again, we're looking at the analog versus digital, right? And what are we doing when we convert analog to digital? I mean, you have digital to analog converters, and same thing, analog to digital. It has to be interpreted. Which is when you start thinking about everything that's being stored digitally and things like that, it all has to be converted. So that's something that's going to be interesting later on, because in the past, I think a lot of things were stored analog. But we'll figure that out. We'll see if we can find that. That's just something I've been thinking about, but haven't really progressed into finding. So when you're basically squaring the circle, it's always been a problem proposed by ancient geometers, and it's a challenge of constructing a square with the same area as a given circle by using only a finite number of steps with compass and straight edge. I think one of of course, I did videos of Marty Leeds. I watched Marty Leeds, and you'll definitely go on his videos about what the square and the circle is, and Freemasons, and you're gonna learn quite a bit. So squaring the circle, that's what the digital technology age is. We're converting everything that's circular and round in form and squaring it. We're making it digitalized. And when we go more into numbers and stuff like that with number 8, interestingly enough, we're going to see 256 a lot, because the maximum amount of interpretations you can store, or the amount of bits that you can store within information within a byte that you can store, is 256. 255 total, but if you include 0 where there's no information, then it's 256. So and of course you could read more about just the What is the history of why bytes are 8 bits? And you'll get the exoteric history, which is also interesting. But this is, of course, the esoteric. And all right, so let's go back to the meanings. So I'm just gonna go ahead and skip over. Oh, yeah, this. So here, 8 is represented in the magic star of Venus, and by the Chaldeans as the 8-pointed star of Venus. Among the Jews, 8 is the number of circumcision because that ceremony took place on the 8th day. In Christianity, there are 8 beatitudes. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Poverty of spirit, mourning, meekness, desire of righteousness, mercy, purity of heart, the peacemaker, and suffering for the sake of righteousness. Saint Joseph endured during 8 years various sufferings before we die. We find 8 again in the story of Noah's Ark, in which the deluge was commemorated by 8 persons who had been saved in the Ark. This is also represented in Freemasonry as the degrees of the Royal Ark Mariners, the Noachites, and the Ark and the Dove. Ah, I did not even know that part. Dr. Mackies explains this degree, Freemasons' lexicon. In this degree, the knights celebrate the destruction of the Tower of Babel. And for this purpose, they meet on the night of the full moon of each month. No other light is permitted in large than what proceeds from that satellite. The records of the order furnish us with the following history. The Noachites, at this day called Prussian Knights, are the descendants of Peleg, chief architect of the Tower of Babel. Thus, they trace the origin of their order to a more ancient date than the descendants of Hiram Lebeth. For the Tower of Babel was built many ages before the Temple of Solomon, and before it was not necessary that candidates for this degree should be Hiramites or Blue Masons, but different regulation was afterwards adopted, and to receive the degree of Noachite, it is now necessary that the candidate should perform the duties of a worthy office in a regularly constituted lodge of Blue Masons. The order of Noachites was established in Prussia in 1755 and introduced into France by the Count Saint Hilaire in 1757. That's just more historical knowledge. The reality is that when most people see the number 8, they just see a plain old number. Little do they know that many numbers like 8 have an occult meaning attached to them. For example, and I guess they're that's why they had this. Little, once you start to be Bob, warning there. I don't want to ban you from live chat, but I will. All right, so little do they know that numbers like 8 have an occult meaning attached to them. For example, the Tower of Belus in Babylon is made of 8 square towers. In Egypt, Thoth had 8 disciples, which was the number of the balance and of the cosmic order. And according to Herodotus, the reign of gods in Egypt would have started with the first group of 8 gods to the number, the head of which was Pan. The Greeks also had dedicated number 8 to Dionysus, who was born in the 8th month of the year. An octave, the interval between 2 notes with the same letter name, where one has double the frequency of the other, is so called because there are 8 notes between the two on a standard major or minor diatonic scale, including notes themselves without chromatic deviation. So most uses of number 8, you'll find that 8 is the number of salvation. The baptismal font is octagonal. And the sign of God's covenant. 8 is the number of the new beginning found in the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. In the Revelation, the Antichrist is the 8th king. The idea of the octave manifests in a slightly different way in the Greek alphanumeric correlation, which begins with alpha equals 1 and ends with omega equals 800. Number 8 integrates with number 66, the value of the wheel, goggle, to yield the key to the Bible as revealed in Isaiah 22:22. And the Church of England, the only festivals mentioned as having octave, Jesus Christ, are Christmas Day, Easter Day, Ascension. Hanukkah is a Jewish festival holiday that lasts 8 days and 8 nights. More mythological and esoteric uses of number 8. In numerology, 8 is the number of building, and in some theories also the number of destruction. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the Ogdode represents the 8 primordial deities of creation, and we're going to go into that more in detail. In mythology, the horse of the Norse god Odin has 8 legs and is called Sleipnir. I kind of forgot about that. The 8 apparitions appear to Macbeth in Act 4, Scene 1 in Shakespeare's Macbeth as representations of the 8 descendants of Banquo. 88 is the abbreviated terminology used by the Aryan Brotherhood for the Nazi salute. Hail Hitler. H being the 8th letter of the alphabet twice. 8-ball pocket billiards is played with the cue ball and numbered 15 sides, blah blah blah. Oh, remember the magic ball, magic 8 ball? That's interesting, huh? So we already went over Dionysus, if I'm saying that right. Oh, here's interesting. Please keep in mind that is the whole point of this biblical magic, as above, so below. And so below doesn't stop there, because in order to properly honor the morning star, you have to do it in style with as many so belows as possible in order to bring the as above into manifestation. Interesting. Augustus Caesar immortalized with the name Octavian. He also changed the calendar from what the Egyptians to the Roman calendar, in which his father was assigned the month of July for Julius, and Augustus was assigned the 8th month of the year. To that we know, of course, know of us as the month of August. Huh. See, that skipped over me. Didn't think about that. Then in math, we see number 8 cited shape in geometry called the octagon, named after Octavian, and we have the 8-limbed creature from the sea called the octopus. In addition to these magical 8 Octavian revelations that I have listed above, let me also point out that in 8 BC, Augustus Caesar had reformed the ancient Egyptian calendar to the new magical Roman calendar that magically bumped up time from 8 BC all the way to 8 AD. I did not... I studied all that stuff, and I just didn't think about that. This was also the time when he had added the month of August to go after his follower Julius's month of July. Now we couple all the above number Octavian 8 truths with the fact that Augustus Caesar had reigned from 63 BC to 14 AD, which equals 8 multiplied by the divine number 10, and we get 80 years. Hopefully you're beginning to get the magical number point of how the Brotherhood assigns numbers to immortal souls. So, a little bit more. In astrology, Scorpio is the 8th astrological sign of the zodiac. Here's something with the S30's 3rd degree Freemason Master Rosicrucian Manly P. Hall says of the Scorpion, these were the rights of the Scorpion the rights of the Scorpion are the mysteries of the apocalypse and the ceremonials of the Sabaeans. The magic of as above, so below is accomplished by assigning stars, planets, numbers, and even new divine allegorical names to worthy brothers who are chosen by the Brotherhood to be immortalized forever. Octava Infantium, 8th day of the Babes, was a frequent designation of the first Sunday after altar Easter, so called in reference to newly baptized as born of God. So that goes with the Gnostic warrior. There's more here. So the Ogdode 8 was sacred, and let me go ahead and increase this more than 150. Let's do Ogdode. The Ogdode 8 was sacred because the number of the first cube, which had 8 corners, and which is interesting when you think about the cube. You think about Saturn, and was the only even number under 10. 1, 2, 4, 8, 4, 2, 1. Thus, the 8 is divided into 4 2s. Each 4 is divided into 2 2s, and each 2 is divided into 2 1s, thereby reestablishing the monad. Among the keywords of the Ogdode are love, counsel, prudence, law, and convenience. Among the divinities partaking of its nature were Paramonia, Rhea, Cybele, Cadmia, and I'm sorry, I'm killing these names. Denime, Orchia, Neptune, Thymus, and Euterpe, a muse. The Ogdode was a mysterious number associated with the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece and the Kabiri. It was called a little holy number. It derived its form partly from the twisted snakes of the Caduceus of Hermes and partly from the serpentine motion of the celestial bodies, possibly also from the moon's nodes. And of course, we'll probably get to that part as well. Now, when we go into the meaning of numbers in the Bible, the number 8. The number 8 in the Bible represents a new beginning, meaning a new order of creation, which is interesting when you think about the digital technology. It is a new creation, at least how we perceive it to be. And man's true born-again event when he is resurrected from the dead into eternal life. Oh. Haven't we heard that a lot? The transhumanism, right? We're gonna store all our all our thoughts and stuff, our mind into a computer. You know, we've seen movies about that. Maybe that's what they're trying to do, and who knows? Think about it. If digital technology exists till however many years, I still exist. These videos that I'm creating, before it was just written down in books. There were photographs and things like that, and you could revisit those things. People who are alive still, they can look back and read the workings of those who have written stuff or drew stuff or took pictures. Now everything's digital, and of course everything is going to be stored digitally. Of course they can wipe it out or block it, but in the future, as long as I have all its data stored somewhere, my kids and my grandkids and other people who are going through the same process of discovering the truth that was hidden from all of us intentionally, and they have been lying to us conditionally for control. You can come back and you can visit me, and wherever I am at that point that you are watching me, doesn't matter, right? It's you. I'm still alive in this form of whatever you want to call it. So okay, so like the Old Testament Passover lamb, Jesus was selected as a lamb to take away man's sins on the Hebrew day of Nisan 10. He is crucified Nisan 14. His resurrection occurred exactly as stated, 3 days and 3 nights after he was buried, which was at the end of the weekly Sabbath. What? Okay, so that fell on Nisan 17. Nisan 17 was also the 8th day, counting inclusively from the time Christ was selected as man's sacrificial lamb. All this bears record of Jesus' perfect sacrifice. It's a complete victory over death. Boys were to be circumcised on the 8th day. Yes, we already went through that. Let's see. The Pentecost is the 8th day of the 7th week. Let's see. 40 different people wrote the scriptures. 40 is never comprised of 5. Symbolizing grace times 8. Symbolizing a new beginning. So 8 is a new beginning again. So I wonder, the whole digital age, it is a new beginning. It's different. It really doesn't degrade. Everything that was done in analog, whatever forms that they had, those materials degraded quite easily. I think there's still room for it, and we should keep it still. But the digital realm, it doesn't really degrade. Basically, what happens is you get an increase of technology that just makes it a little bit more. There's just more added to it, so it just seems more higher definition. It's just based off of pixelations and things like that. So it's I'm just hoping that when I'm talking about technology, sometimes people are like, I don't know them. A lot of people don't understand technology very much, so I'm just kind of taking it for granted that you do. But I may have to break it down and talk with certain people. It's like, how much do they understand about technology and things like that? I think most people do, but like more advanced stuff, people probably don't really think about or recognize. So just think about it. A lot of it's based off 32 bits, and of course 8 times 4 is 32, and then you got 64 bits, which is just 8 times 8, and then interestingly, we'll get to 256 because however amount of information could be stored within a byte. And then 64, you're going to get 128, and you can get 256, and then you get 512. Then you get 1024 and 2048, and then 4098, I think. Anyways, it keeps going. And you'll see, it's pretty easy to figure all that stuff out if you build your own computers, because a lot of the memory sizes are based off of that. And then you get up to resolutions. It's if you get most of it's, but you'll see 1920 or 2560, and then of course you got the new 4K resolution, which is 30. I don't know. Remember what 4K was. But and of course it's going to be based off of a ratio within it. So you're going to find basically everything can be divided up to 8, and it's all going to be whole numbers. It's all evenly even. Okay. So timekeeping. One method of timekeeping was used in Israel was called a watch. Watches were time periods in which guards were placed on duty. Okay, yeah. Although days were initially divided into 6 equal watch periods, by the time of the New Testament, days were divided into 8 equal parts. So night watches, day watches, yada yada yada. How much is? I mean, basically, if you think about it, our days are kind of relegated into 8. They say to get the most rest, you sleep for 8 hours. And typical work day is what, 8 hours. So then you have the rest of the day, another 8 hours to do everything between that, work and sleep, which hopefully is play, but of course you're going to be doing a lot of maintenance and upkeep. Okay, so how is number 8 related to Jesus' resurrection? Jesus showed himself alive 8 times after his resurrection from the dead. Additional info on biblical meaning, and we saw this before. God saved 8 people on the ark in order to have a new beginning, 8 for mankind after the flood. 8 is the number of Jesus, whose name in the Greek adds up to 888. And of course, if you watch Marty Leeds, you're going to see more about Jesus in the septenary and what that adds up to, and with the Greek, and it's pretty cool. Let's keep going. TheMysticalNumbers.com. Maybe we'll find more. I'm going to skip over a lot that we might have gone over already, but I'm just gonna just talk about the ones that we haven't mentioned already. 8 is the number of harmony and balance, symbolizes the ability to make decisions, abundance and power. Again, Ogdo. 8 is lucky. Number 8 is a lucky number in China. It's a very lucky number in China. In China, 8 is homonym for prosperity. When pronounced, it sounds much like the word prosper. Double 8 as an 88 is said to bring double joy. It's interesting because when we see Hollywood movies, we see the 88 as kind of being a bad thing. Like a triad and all this other stuff from Japan. And then if you watch Kill Bill, interesting how it just always seems that way. Everything gets inverted and perverted. The opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics in China began on 8/8/08 at 8 seconds and 8 minutes past 8 p.m. Wow, China really went all overboard on that, didn't they? I didn't realize that. The 8th day of the Chinese New Year is a day for the annual gathering of all the gods in heaven. The Scorpio is the 8th. We went over that. Number 8 is the number of Saturn. Number 8 is lucky for Capricorn. In tarot, 8 is the card for justice or strength. Strength symbolizes inner strength and determination. Reversed, it means lack of confidence. No, we don't see lack of confidence within the digital forms, do we? Especially in behind fake names and pseudonyms, whatever, aliases, avatars, whatever you want to call it. No pictures, no names. People are pretty strong. They won't say those stuff in front of people's faces, that's for sure, but they'll do it behind the computer. Let's see. You get a lot of just math. Wow, it goes to 888. A bronze anniversary celebrates the 8th year. A Latin word for 8 is octo. Oh, I didn't know. The amount of clouds in the sky is measured in octus. From 0 to 8. Why is that? That's interesting. I may have to look that up. Why would they measure in octus? A stop sign has 8 sides. Yeah, octagon. Is a polygon has 8 sides. In the world of computers, a byte is 8 bits. We know that. The number 8 is the atomic number for oxygen. Spiders have 8 legs. Octopus 8 legs. Infinity. 8 fluid ounces in a cup, or 8 pints in a gallon. 8th president. Huh. What? Interesting. Oh, I see. Huh, Martin Van Buren was the first president born a citizen of the U.S. 8 Days a Week was a major hit in 1964 by the Beatles. Their original 8 reindeers of Santa. The original 8 were Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Darn, and Blitzen. There are 8 planets in our solar system. If you, of course, don't count Pluto. It takes 8 minutes for the sun's light to reach the Earth. Spanish dollar, a piece of 8. A magic 8 ball. I said that. Noah's Ark again. The Feast of the Immaculate Conception, December 8th, is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception in the Roman Catholic faith. The birth of the Virgin Mary is celebrated 9 months later on September 8th. Let's see, March 8th is the International Women's Day. The World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day is celebrated May 8th. May 8th was the birthday of Henry Dunant, who was the founder of the Red Cross. In ancient Rome, the 8th day was an important day to a newborn child. As the newborn lived to the 8th day, the child was worth special attention. On this day, the baby was rubbed with salt for protection against evil spirits. The EU flag was adopted on December 8th, 1955. Oh, interesting. Oh, we're going to get to the EU. Because it also correlates to 256. And I think 8. Oh yeah. That's going to be fun. 8 gates surrounding the ancient city of Babylon. Ishtar was the equivalent of the Sumerian goddess Inanna. Let's see. 8 millennium developmental goals to be achieved by 2015. These goals were agreed upon by 192 United Nations member systems. Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking of. Not quite 256, but 192. Again, you can get to 192 by using 8. Interesting. 2015 got passed. It's 2019 now. I wonder if they feel like they've gotten all of that. Austria borders to 8 different counties. Wicca festivals. The 8 festivals are observed in the Wicca Wheel of the Year. Let's see. There's a lot more. Infinity, the infinite Ogdoad, the creation pantheon of ancient Egypt and predecessor gods of the Old Kingdom. The Ogdoad, this is from the ancientorigins.net. The Ogdoad was also called the Hehu, or infinites, where the celestial rulers of a cosmic age considered to have come long before the Egyptian religious system currently recognized. The Ogdoad were concerned with the preservation and flourishing of the celestial world, and later, as well as indirectly, the formation of the human race. Through their power among the Egyptian people, most widely recognized between 2686 to 2134 BCE in the Old Kingdom settlement of Hermopolis, so named by the Greeks as they equated Thoth with messenger god Hermes. Traces of their pantheon permeated down to the next set of gods, correlating the formation of the human race with the hands of the Ogdoad. Hands of the Ogdoad. Now, do you think they have 8 digits? 8 instead of 10? I mean, we see a lot of references to 4-fingered beings, right? It would have made sense. Maybe interesting when you think about it. Okay. As stated above, the Ogdoad predate the more commonly known Egyptian gods such as Osiris, his sister wife Isis, and the emissary of the underworld Anubis. Considered to have come into creation before the world did, the Ogdoad consists of 4 couples, 8 individual deities who balance one another in the nature of the cosmos. Each pair correlated with one of the primary elements of the universe in the Egyptian belief system. Examples are water, air, light, and time. In the early Christian era, the idea of Ogdoad also appears in Gnostic belief. The planetary spheres were thought to be planes of existence in between the earth and the heavenly regions. And this gets pretty cool later. In the old kingdom of ancient Egypt, it was believed Nu and Naunet were responsible for the development and continued renewal of the primordial waters of the universe. Anyways, it's more you can go ahead and look at. Here's the 8 deities, 4 couples of the Ogdoad and Hermopolis. Something cool. With Hermeticism, this is going at the sophiatopia.org. Logos is a holy word coming from forth from the light of the divine nous, the ninth sphere of being, situated between the decad of God himself and the Ogdoad of the blessed souls, fixed stars and deities. One decad is the God himself, Ennead. I'm horrible with words, so I'm sorry if I butcher words and I'm reading fast. Divine nous, light, God, and Hermes, autogenous. Ogdoad, Logos, or Son of God. We see Ogdoad mentioned a lot. Another thing is, if I go down further, the Ogdoad, divine Logos, fashioning creation. So we're creating something new with digital information. I mean, if you think of what we create, what we can create, like we can't create video games and things like that within the real world. We create it within a virtual world. So we are creating things. We're not creating material things. We're creating whatever you want to call it. We call it, I guess, simulated worlds, virtual worlds. It doesn't exist in the material, although it affects the material. For example, we play a video game. It's that game itself. It's nothing that we can see material in material form. We see it through a 2-dimensional screen. The interactions that everybody have together, if it's online and like a co-op or like a MMO, we all interact with it together, and we have inner experiences from it. We remember the game. We remember what we did. We're manipulating within the physical environment to a virtual environment. Yet we get information back from it. We get every emotion that we have in the material world. It's acted within the simulated virtual world. Now, because the virtual world doesn't exist in the material world, but we can interact with it. We can get the information back from it, and it affects us. We learn from it, and we can remember things from it, especially if we have good experiences with it. We're gonna remember it, and I mean, that's pretty magical in a way, right? We've created a different realm. We've created something new, but it isn't in the material. So in a way, we've created a new beginning, new world. We can continue to exist as long as this thing that we call this digital technology continues to exist. More, we could talk more about that. I just kind of want to go over a little bit more stuff. There is a specific term within here that I do want to show you, which is the plane. Gosh, what is it? Let me see. The logoic plane. So, correspondence for Egyptian thought. The pre-creational plane is the noon, and Hermeticism is the decad. The spiritual plane, Atum, corresponds to the noetic plane, the Ennead. The mental plane, the Pantheon, is similar to the logoic plane, the Ogdoad. Now, if we go into what the logoic plane is, if you just go to Wikipedia, the logoic plane is the highest plane. It is described as a plane of total oneness, the I am presence. Joshua David Stone, He actually formed a university called the I Am University. Describes the plane as complete unity with God, which is interesting. I've never heard of Joshua David Stone. I might want to check him out. Like I said, I check out information from all sources. I don't have preconceived notions. I mean, I do. I mean, almost everyone does, but that doesn't stop me from learning the information presented from a particular individual, no matter what they believed in, what they didn't believe in. Anyways, so that's pretty interesting if you think about it. So again, to kind of circle back, interestingly, circle back. Circling back is kind of what the 8 is, right? Squaring the circle. That's what digital technology is. We can't reproduce what is in the material world and create just as how we've been created and everything else as far as matter has been created. We can only do that virtually, and to do that we have to digitize it. And to digitize it, what we do is we square it. Everything that's in nature, it's if we do it mathematically, we won't be able to get the exactness of it. If you look at the golden ratio, or if you look at pi, it's very hard to get exact, and we're not going to get that by if we can't find out the entirety of it. We have to guesstimate, and we can't guesstimate with technology where we're using bits, which is basically made out of ones and zeros. So what we do is we square it. We make sure that we don't get any decimals within the hardware. Like software, you can go ahead and get a lot of decimals. You can get any type of number because it's just representation of the digital ones and zeros, which is based off of 8s, which is bytes. And so with that, you're going to get all the information fitting within a byte. So basically, also, everything that's converted from analog to digital, it's squared. So you're going to have to square the circle. So everything that you see, you're going to, in the digital realm, it's just going to be interpreted easily and better by the use of squares. And that's why when you see the pixels, if you get really close to your monitor, your TV screen, you're going to see squares. We no longer use the analog tubes, which is all based off of just kind of as direct representation. But I think I wonder if we probably could store analog information long term without degradation, but that again goes into just my thoughts on it is that just goes along with free energy and free storage. If technology went that way, where we just continued on the analog information storage and analog energy, which is free energy, and controllers don't want that, so they've constructed something newer and in their minds better, which is the digital information age, all based on the squaring of the circle. Whether that's good or bad, I just, however way that they want to design it has meaning for them, and it might give them perceived powers or influences. That's something that I haven't gotten to yet. Whether I take that into consideration, whether I think it's true or not. I'm still on the edge. Okay, I don't know. I think of every tool as it's based on the user of the tool. The user of the tool can use it for good or evil. The tool itself isn't an evil tool or good tool. I think anything out there that can be used, it has no perception of being good or evil. It's like when people say guns are evil. Goodness, no, they're not. People who say, technology is evil, computers are evil. It's like, really? Come on. And like they'll be saying that on a computer or their phone. Tools are basically how to be used, and how they're used dictates whether it's used for good or evil. But that's neither here nor now. So you can just, squaring the circle, importance 256, got me to this equation, the Ami's papyrus problem 50. Ami's solution is take away thou 1/9 of it, namely 1. The remainder is 8. Make thou the multiplication 8 times 8 becomes 864. My favorite computer of all time was the Commodore 64. The amount of it, this is an area 64 setat. If we take this solution as a general formula, then modern notation, we obtain a formula for the area A of a circle of diameter as, so 64 over 81 diameter squared. From this deduce, since A equals pi diameter squared over 4, that the ancient Egyptians implicitly used the value pi equals 256 divided by 81 equals 4 divided by 3, and we see 4 to 3 ratio in the early screens of our time. But now we use the ratios that we use for our resolutions in our screens. It's like here's the 4K 3840 by 2160. So the 12 by crap. Some ratio. I gotta figure it out. Here we go. 4:3 is like most computer displays early on was 4:3 aspect ratio. Now, then it became 16:10. That was kind of the ratio that was used that I really liked. But then it's the norm has become the 16:9 ratio. Now the ratio doesn't matter. It's just all about the amount of pixels within the monitor. So basically, amount of pixels horizontally added up, and all the pixels added up vertically, and you just add those together, and that's the resolution. For example, let's use the calculator. So if we get 1920 by 1080, which is kind of the standard right now, we get 2,073,600 pixels. And of course, we can always divide that by 8, 259,200. If you have the highest monitor resolution, which is 4K, okay, you got 3840 by 2160. You can even divide that by 8, and you're going to get an even number. No matter what, you're going to get a whole even number. And they like using the variations of. So if we're going to go by 256. 256 is going to be used a lot, folks. Whether it's let's see, 1920, and if we divide it by 256, okay, maybe that wasn't a good example. All right, let's do 2560 divided by 256, 10. And then the next one, of course, is the UHD 3840, 840 divided by 256, 15. Yeah, interesting. 1920 got 7.5. I wonder, that's kind of interesting. Maybe if I do 1920 times 1080, and then we divide by 256, maybe 100. 81. That's interesting number, huh? Okay, anyways, don't mind me. This is just all informal. This is just kind of my thought process on it. I want to look more into it, and of course we do see a lot of the significance of spiritual symbolism and numbers. 144 it's a big number, like even biblical 144,000 will be saved, and then you do the digital root. So if you don't know what digital root is, it's basically adding up the numbers to get the total number. So for 144, you do 1 plus 4 plus 4 equals 9, and then you can find the symbolic representation of 9 from that number. 128 would be 1 plus 2, which is 3, plus 8, which is 11, and you get 1 plus 1, which is 2. So you get the digital root of 2 with 128. But anyways, you're going to have a lot of significance with 144, 128, and all this other stuff, and that can all be divided by 8 pretty easily. 256. Basically, I'm just kind of looking at gematria, and interesting. When you look at 256, it's kind of what adds up to for an ever and ever to all eternity. Excuse me. Burping. I just kind of ate something before. Well, I don't know where to go with it. Is the promise of Yah to make one's actions good. Here's more funny stuff. Jewish gematria, which we're going to go by. Baphomet is 256. Cosmic Man 256. UFO 256. So much stuff is 256. Even Keanu Reeves 256. The Rock. NASA Lies 256. I mean, I don't know anything about gematria. I don't put too much credence into it. Sometimes, it's. I think it's interesting. I think there are patterns to it, which I think some people put those patterns together on purpose. So that's something definitely to look into. Let's see. Where's there something here that I wanted to find? I think so. Otherwise, why would I have it? It goes about with. Let's see. Aharon Devarin. I don't know. I found that there. I just don't know why I went ahead and wasn't even bothered. Okay, so if we go to Wiki, 256 number and computing 1 octet, in most cases 1 byte is equal to 8 bits and has 2 to the 8th or 256 possible values counting from 0 to 255. Number 256 often appears in computer applications, especially on 8-bit systems, such as the typical number of different values in each color channel of a digital color image. 256 values for red, 256 values for green, 256 values for blue, used in 424-bit color. Yeah, I knew that. The number of colors available in a GIF or 256 color. The number of characters in extended ASCII and Latin 1. The number of columns available in the Microsoft Excel worksheet until Excel 2007. I totally forgot about that. I was like, oh man, only if we had more columns. Okay, the split screen level in Pac-Man results from the use of single byte to store the internal level counter. Did not know that. A 256-bit integer can represent up to 1.1579209 plus 77 values. Number of bits in the SHA-256 cryptographic hash. Oh yeah, cryptography. Interesting. 256. Why? The branding number of NVIDIA GeForce 256. Other fields. The number of characters in a new Braille 8-dot system. Again, 8-dot system. 256 number of characters. Number of NFL regular season football games. Sarah in Alabama. Frequency of middle C in hertz under scientific pitch. The number of Amarna letter EA256. According to David Rowe, is written by Ishbal. Contains mentions of King David, Jesse, and Joab. The number of captured Viet Cong in the song 3500, the musical Hair. The number of soldiers in the most basic unit, the syntagma of the Macedonian army. The number used by short track speed skating Olympian Apollo Ono. The number of players online, Dominion mode, and Game Mag. Number of catch cards, yada yada. The number of value in Hebrew gematria of the word Rana, meaning sing, which appears in Jeremiah 31:16, sing with gladness for Jacob, which is associated with the prophecy of the return of the Messiah in the Hebrew year 4856. Which was close to the 56th lunar cycle, each cycle lasting 19 years, wherein the Jews were persecuted during the First Crusade. Man, anyways. So, 8, 256, squaring the circle, the Ogdode, from different belief systems, whether it's through paganism, whether it's through Hermeticism, whether it's through the biblical. 8 becomes a very, very big number. And then you've got Pythagoras and a whole bunch of other stuff. At any rate, this was something that might maybe, like for me, I just see it as an extension. It's like I said, the digital world is something where we can create, and we're creating it based off of interesting, I guess, esoteric, hidden knowledge. You know, why does it use 8? There's specific reasons for it. They've tried using it for different digits probably a little bit before. 8 fit. Why not go 10? I mean, digital. You would think we'd be in the 10s instead of 8s. It would make things a lot easier for most people. But I think 8 was picked for a good reason. A reason we don't know about. And again, it's just a interpretation of being able to square the circle. We can't create things the way nature does. We have to create things that the way, I guess, we can find limits in. Like, we're limited within the digital realm. I mean, the possibilities is can be limitless, but there are limitations that we can do in the digital realm. It's never going to manifest in the material. Maybe that's what the transhumanism is trying to do, or what they are trying to get to. That way they can live forever, etc., because they can't do it the natural way. Who knows? I mean, it's just all, again, speculation on my part even. Well, might as well go in here. So that's that. Just kind of want to go over with you. Excuse me. It's only an hour. It's pretty informal. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to mention it in chat or comments section. And because a lot of the number association and stuff, I have to do more research into. And then just the idea of, it's kind of the idea of why that they have the digital technology. It does make things easier. It does connect a lot of people. Control of it is another different thing. What can be created in it, really, if it does affect us, even though it's not materialistically there. Like, we can see 2D representations of 3D objects within the digital realm. We're not going to see the 3-dimensional objects within the 2-dimensional realm within the physical reality. But all of it still exists. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's still there. It's still in an environment we can interact with. It's a world, a virtual world, a simulation that we can interact with, that we can manipulate. We can see it return on its own, whether it's through AI that we program. It can keep trying to find the curves. Like, I think they've even tried computing just to find out if there's any pattern within pi. They haven't yet, but they've gone so many numbers that no way any person can do on their own without a computer. It'd be interesting. I'd love to see. And here's the thing: I don't think we're ever going to get to the quantum computers. I think quantum computers are a big hoax, because if you look at quantum mechanics and quantum physics, once it's observed, it can change its state, right? So, how are you going to put that into a storage system? It's observed. Okay, what do we observe it as? Oh, positive. Oh, wait, it's negative. It's stored as what? A positive or a negative, a 1 or a 0 instead of 1. It's either a 1 or it's a 0, but we can store it as a 1 and a 0. Makes no sense. But I don't think they're going to be able to do that with the quantum computer. I think that's fake. What's the purpose into it? They've squared the circle. The only reason you would have quantum is you would be able to understand, quantify the circle. And it basically would be a complete analog system. That's what I mean. What's the purpose of? I mean, we can do the analog to digital and digital analog conversion. It won't be exact when we convert it back, And so the best thing to do, I mean, you're not going to do that in the quantum realm. Best thing you would do is the quantum realm is basically the physical, the analog. You know, get an exact representation without any conversions. And I think that's the stuff that was used probably in the past or by more of the ancients. These analog computers, that's of course just pure speculation. We haven't found any evidence for, so don't take my word for it. It's just something that I want to search for. I mean, like if you don't think of something to search for just because it doesn't exist, if you don't search for it at all, you're never going to find it, right? So the idea is, look, think of something that has no evidence, try to find evidence for it, and see if you find it. And if you don't, you don't. But obviously, if you don't think it exists because it doesn't exist, you don't see any evidence for it, so you never search for it, you're never going to find it. There. So that's just my mentality. All right. So thank you very much for listening to this, if you're still listening. And I would love to have more thoughts on this, because I would like to make this more of a formal, make a more formal video in the Awakening series that I have. It just, there's still a lot that I feel like there's missing from this. And this is, again, just more of a collection of thoughts. That's why it's informal. And interesting numbers, numerology, and meaning behind it. Okay. Thank you very much, and have a good night.